Hi, this is Douglas Horn with Telos, and this is Telos Live Hangout number 3. Welcome everybody. So glad to have you here. Hi, this is Douglas Horn. I've been learning a lot in Telos Live Hangout number 1 and 2, and the biggest thing I learned is to keep them shorter. So I'm going to try to do that. Also, I'm going to try bring in a couple of guests today who are really exciting what they're doing. We have Dimitri C of Infinity Block, which is a block producer working on Telos from the very beginning. And he's going to talk about a new tool that he's created called Pulse. And Marlon Williams of EOS Miami, also been with us from the beginning, a core dev with the Telos project. And he is going to talk about very exciting updates to our official wallet right now called Squirrel, which is one of the very first multi-chain wallets. Very exciting. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Hello, guys. Thanks for having me.
So let's start out just to talk a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about Pulse, because I actually am excited to hear and learn more about Pulse. So Dimitri, before we do that, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? You're working with. Tell us about yourself and Infinity Block, please.
Yeah, so hi everybody, I'm Dmitry. I've been involved in big data, cloud applications, distributed applications for several years now, and that's kind of my background. With this blockchain effort, we're kind of thinking how to marry the two worlds, and part of that combination is actually what we came up with Pulse. That's the basic background.
That's great. And so, can you tell us a little bit about Infinity Block? Infinity Block is one of the block producers working with us. You're based in Silicon Valley, right? It's you and Justin. Anything else you want to tell us about Infinity Block? What you guys are out to do and stand for, and anything like that?
Yeah, we have a lot of different ideas. We actually, especially me, came from the application point of view, and we're thinking about Infinity Block and block production is definitely as a part of the big picture. For specific projects, we have a roadmap on infinityblock.io. You guys can go check it out there.
Okay, that's great. And you guys recently announced that you are also one of the starting block producers on the Warbly network, which is another blockchain like Telos and EOS. All three are different blockchains that forked from EOSIO software. So you're really so congratulations on that, and we are very excited about Warbly and all the EOSIO chains. Of course, obviously EOS. Do you want to mention anything about that, or did?
Yeah, well, I think in general, this space is so new, it's so interesting, and as we all know, there's a lot of different complementary technologies and roadmaps and business plans that are coming in together. So we're involved in a couple of them. Definitely, Telos being one of the main ones, and Warbly. Looking forward to seeing where it all goes. It all sounds very involved in this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I want to be a little bit more. I'm trying to be a little more explicit in my support for all EOSIO chains. I have to admit that I get a little tunnel vision about what we're trying to do on Telos, and it's come to my attention that sometimes that sounds like I am not as excited about other chains. I'm excited about all the chains. Obviously, if my focus wasn't here, that would be a mistake, but I want to be clear to everybody that I'm excited. We're all very excited and looking forward to working together with all these chains. Hey Marlon, can we let's get Marlon. This guy's my hero. He's a fantastic programmer. He came when we needed a wallet because Telos is going to have some changes from EOS, obviously, in terms of wallet and how our keys are going to work. Marlon went out and made a bunch of pull requests on which are code suggestions for EOS chain, the main chain, about how they deal with some of their key issues, because it's an important issue that's only first coming to light when we have our first sister chain. So Marlon went in, made some great suggestions. They got accepted, and then he went on to build a new wallet based off Gray Mass EOS Voter with their thumbs up. They just didn't have time to do everything, and so he went in and did an incredible job, and that's called Squirrel. Hi, Marlon. Welcome.
Hi. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Looking forward to the discussion this evening.
Yeah, me too. Well, we're in it. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and EOS Miami and what your goals are and what brought you into the EOS world?
Yeah, sure. So I am the CEO of a cloud-based call center software company called Finero. We're based out of Miami, Florida. We've been running the company for the past 6 years or so. Prior to that, I led the information technology department at a pretty large call center. So network, telecommunications, software guys were all reporting to me. And that's sort of what led us into the space with EOS, because our new company, which is called Cubicles, is a marketplace that we're building to connect call centers with customer service, sales, and support talent in a meritocracy-based sort of environment. And we thought that utilizing the EOSIO software would be the most efficient chain for us.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. Wow. I'm excited to hear more about. Now that's what we're going to talk about today. No.
And we also founded EOS Miami with a group of locals here in South Florida, and where we have frequent meetups and just trying to build the local ecosystem here, filled with EOS enthusiasts.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures from your meetups. It looks like you guys did a pretty good turnout for the ones I've seen.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's pretty exciting stuff.
And it's an amazing time.
It is. It is.
You ever think that the people like building the railroads, driving the spikes, I don't think they got as excited about what they were doing for some reason, but I could be wrong. But it feels like that time, doesn't it? It feels like the time when we're laying the tracks, and you can do a couple of train can run from city to city, but it's nowhere near what it's going to be in very short order. That's how I feel.
I don't know about you, Doug, but I didn't live in those times. I know you're telling us your age a bit.
Oh my God, yeah. I know. I'm like the world's oldest crypto guy. I think a couple people got McAfee's got me beat by a little bit probably. So not much.
No, but that's a great point. Absolutely, it's a great time to be in technology, in blockchain specifically, because the possibilities are limitless. So we're looking forward to all of the products that are going to define the future.
Yeah, I do say, I often make this reference because these are times that I actually did live in with the mobile time. Like when there was once all these different companies that were carving out local airspace for mobile phones when it was first coming in, and now look at that, several years later when those have all sort of knitted together and they interact, and the technology itself is just knit itself into every moment of our lives, right? So absolutely. I think it's going to be very similar, just with value added on, as an integral part of that.
Oh yeah.
What's really interesting in it for me too is the kind of new directions it could take, right? Taking the cell phones, 15 years ago, we probably didn't even think that you could have maps on it and stuff. So who knows where it's going to go.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's the first thing these new technologies let us do is do the same old stuff we did before, but better, faster, and or cheaper, right? And then the next thing they let us do is entirely new stuff. So so cell phones used to be for making calls and things like that. And you could call and text and it was faster, it was better. You could do it from anywhere. Then suddenly, time passes and it turns into what we have now, which no one ever would have foreseen. Social media, all these things that are available and become ubiquitous because the opportunity for a different kind of technology exists. And the exact same things will happen with EOS and the EOSIO world, right? So we'll start out recreating some of the things we're doing on the internet, even recreating some of the things that are happening on existing chains, right? Like that, where it's just faster transfer of value. But in time, and maybe not much time, because the pace of acceleration itself accelerates. We're going to see whole new things that could never happen if you couldn't have half-second block times, right? With massive amounts of free feeless transactions that just kind of ping around all they want across blockchains. So that's going to come. I can't wait. I think we got a lot of ideas though.
Yeah, that's definitely the fun part.
So Dimitri, would you tell us a little bit about Pulse? Pulse was originally called Beat. It's something that we were working on, TELOS was hoping would exist as a way to kind of look at the network, and you took it on and you've done a lot of development on it, partly because of it really seemed to align very well with your experience in the non-blockchain world. And so I'm excited to hear more about it, how it came about, see it, and then it's still early, so we can talk about your plans for the future with it as well.
Yeah, well, that's a great description. That's kind of, it's all started out. We're definitely excited about blockchain technology in general, and those things that we mentioned, and also working with it, we kind of realized that, hey, the blockchain is basically a big distributed application that is running across the world. Some of it is running on the hardware, some of it is running on the cloud. So from that perspective, we realized that we can actually utilize some of the, maybe in the last 10 years, maybe in 5 years, proven technologies and actually apply it to the EOS software. And also what was interesting is that just beyond the software, the distributed communities are actually kind of almost running open distributed data centers. So the major idea was, hey, why don't we sort of think about it that way and set up the things that you would see when you come to an enterprise and you're involved in an IT shop and a bigger enterprise and a smaller enterprise. Why don't we use the same tools for the EOS and TELOS? And
right.
That way, we don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel or the proverbial bicycle, and we can innovate even faster.
So there's a lot of because of the cloud industry, we already have a lot of really mature visualization tools, right? Like Kibana, which I think that's what you built on. You built Pulse on. Is that right?
Yeah. So I personally have experience in distributed application and big data and distributed databases. So it was really interesting to see how we can hit the ground running. So one of the first things that we decided to start setting up is to start sending all the data that we can gather from the chain into a central location. And that's how the beat started. Go ahead.
Oh, no. So can you talk us through a few of the current features that you have and what we'll see when we're using Pulse?
Yeah. So Pulse currently is the monitoring solution for your servers and for the whole network.
So if somebody wants to look, so I mean, if a user or a block producer, anybody wants to look at what's going on the network, how is Telos running? What kind of data is, what level of data is flowing through it? Where is it going? Things like that. They could look at Pulse, right? And you could have these great visualizations for some of these metrics. Is that right?
Yeah, so all the data from your BP or an API node, such as metrics, CPU usage, or logs, go into one central location. You can search your logs, correlate your logs with logs of other BPs. That kind of allows you to see really quickly if there's any hiccups in the system. As a whole, you can have really nice dashboard that correlate logs with the metrics usage and stuff like that, which is basically pretty common tasks in any data center, in any distributed or big application that's currently running.
Right, right. So this is largely something that block producers are going to use to look at their own processes. Is it also open so that users can take a look and maybe get a peek at who's doing what well?
Yeah, that's a great point. So it's multi-level. There are definitely some things that the block producers are going to be interested. But also there's a lot of interesting information that the just general users can get. For example, monitor what kind of transactions went where, what kind of, basically any kind of information that they want to look up about the BP or the chain, and the BPs in the chain is willing to share. So for example, current monitors, while they're great, there's a limited time series analysis you can do on them. We actually, behind it all, there's a database. So you can go in and in a common open format, write SQL queries over, the last transactions over the last day of the last year. So that's kind of the future.
Wow.
Currently some of the components are, in development, but we're planning to open it up completely to everybody because it's a public project. So that's why it's so interesting. You can already get a lot of that information if you're a BP, but that common place for everyone where anybody can go and look it up, and tools like BigQuery, for example, is still not implemented. So this is what we're working on. So completely make all that data available. Of course, at the same time, if there is a need, we can, just like, in your enterprise level IT service, we can anonymize some of the data. That's not a problem. But the idea is, have data access as possible and make analysis of the chain and events in the chain as efficient as possible.
I think that's exciting. It's gonna, it kind of gives you a way to look at what's happening, how well it's happening. I think the more tools like this that we get, the better. And this lets us actually look into what's happening at the server level, or scale up and look at what's happening at the whole chain level. So very excited. I wanted to also mention there's a tool that we should talk about that is from Aloha EOS. And I'll put the link in here. But they have added the Telos testnet to their EOS block producer benchmarks. So more and more, it's exciting to see that more and more of these tools are coming out, and that people who are not even directly related with us are now incorporating Telos into that. So
and the cool thing is actually it all also can be integrated. So just looking at it from that point of view, that's kind of what we started doing. We're just setting up tools for ourselves and ask ourselves, what kind of monitoring do we want? What kind of visibility do we want into the chain and events in the chain? And since it is a big public network, we just decided to share it with everyone else. So that's kind of the cool part that I think in the future a lot of that stuff is going to be integrated as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we once this is robust and working, we will make sure that we'll probably turn it towards looking at the EOS network as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the way we're designing those tools is that they're all distributed and they're all portable and modular. So it'll be easy on ramp or plug in other exchange and other tools into it for sure.
Great. Yeah, it's going to be very exciting. Let's talk to Marlon. So thank you for sharing that. That's it's really cool to see, and we should open up for if people have a chance to look at that while they're listening. If they have some questions later on or suggestions about things that we should add, we will, like, after this, after we talk a little bit more, we'll open up for questions that anyone might have and anyone's suggestions, and maybe we'll get some great feedback about it right here. But of course, you're also welcome to talk. We're always welcome to share those ideas with the with the group in either this this Discord channel, the Telos Discord channel, or in the Telos main Telegram channel, which is at Hello Telos on Telegram. And so you can post any questions there as well. So so let's talk to Marlon a little bit, because I'm very excited about Squirrel, and Squirrel is probably going to be the main way that people interact with the Telos network for a while. I this sounds crazy. I almost hope it's not, right? I almost hope that, or not. I almost hope. I do hope really that all this work that you're doing is just going to be sent back to other, or it's going to be adopted by other tools, so that they can, so that users can use whatever wallet they want. So it's a little bit of a, so if you do your job right, and Marlon and they take part, and the other wallets take part, it kind of, the need for it goes away a little bit, except there's lots of things that are going to be in Squirrel that are always going to be ahead of the other tools, most likely. Anyway, Marlon, tell us about Squirrel.
So the reason that I thought it best to focus our resources on making sure that when the Telos network goes live, we do have a tool that we can interact with on the chain. It's because we were part of the EOS main chain launch. I mean, we set up BP. We were just involved in the back end silently, and saw that there were so many things missing once it finally went live. I mean, it wasn't until it went live that we started seeing work done on some of these applications. So there were various voting tools from 6 or 7 different websites. There were just a couple wallets in development, weren't entirely prepared for real world or live usage.
Yeah, nothing was vetted, right? Nothing. Nothing had been even scatter at that point. We hadn't a chance to really truly say, yes, this is 100% safe. And so I remember we, as block producers, all said, and Block One also suggested this, that if we can't say it's 100% safe, then we can't recommend that. And then the problem was all we could recommend was Kleos, right? Or EOC. EOS Canada had a light version called EOC. It was still a command line thing that most people weren't excited about. So it was, yeah, you're right. There were a lot of missing pieces, and there's a lot of downstream from the missing pieces, right? So we are today, I believe, launching a new portal on the Telos Foundation main website for all the people who have had lost their keys or had their keys phished, right? and way too many, you know, and so we're still cleaning that up. Hopefully what we'll do is we'll create a new snapshot so no one has, you know, so we've reached just about everybody and nobody has to do that the next time somebody creates an EOSIO fork. But that's all downstream from there not being any, you know, good wallets, from basically a little bit of a rush to go, like before all the pieces were ready. And so people got fished because people would say, oh, we'll help you set it up. Or they would set up these like kind of little fly-by-night websites that were supposed to register you. But since everything was new, there was no way really to tell what was, you know, legit and, you know, and what was just using some trusted block producer's logo, right? So
Right.
a lot of people, through really no fault of their own, got lost their keys, and those are still tied up. So we want to try to, so yeah, we need to say, hey, we have a trusted wallet, right?
Absolutely. And it's so unfortunate, you know. And that's, you know, one of the things that we're certainly trying to avoid by the work that we're doing on Squirrel. So, you know, of course, after launch, there were several tools like Gray Mass and you know, a few others, and
Scatter.
Scatter, absolutely. I mean, Nathan James has done a phenomenal job with Scatter, so shout out to him there.
Yeah.
He's also you know, has the community's interest in mind, because one of the things you mentioned earlier was EOS Miami working on several changes with, you know, supporting prefixes for various chains in the main EOSIO repository, and we worked with Scatter uh, uh, as well, just in helping them support the Telos chain along with any other EOSIO chain. And Nathan was just a phenomenal guy to interact with on that.
Yeah.
And the Gray Mass team as well. I mean, those guys are studs over there. You know, just overall, there's a pretty good set of high quality developers in our ecosystem,
Yeah.
and that makes it even more exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm a little jealous because I you know, I see what you're doing with Squirrel and it's so exciting and cool. And I'm like, oh, that's gonna be, you know, we kind of created this to be made and exist and then kind of go away, but it probably won't because it's really taken on a lot of really cool features. So so Nathan, just a shout out again about Nathan James. Nathan James, he's very, like, in my opinion, what I've seen, he's very much about how do we empower all the users, because just
Absolutely.
the situation we were talking about, the lack of tools is not empowering the users. And so he created a kick-ass tool. He was the first actually to say, hey, I'm going to embrace multi-chain in Scatter Desktop. He didn't roll back for a very good reason. He didn't roll back and add it to the Chrome extension because that's essentially deprecated. And he is working as fast as he can to create desktop, which is a better solution anyway. And we're all going to go to it. And then mobile, right? Which is going to change people's lives. So he's creating those. He's looking at the future, but he's also looking at the future that includes a lot of different flavors of EOSIO software, right? EOSIO networks. So he's embracing that. He actually was the first one to make a version that of Scatter Desktop that would allow this to allow multi-chain. And I think that came, I don't know how that came out in relation to Squirrel, but not that it matters. But for Squirrel, so all total respect to Nathan James and Scatter. For Squirrel, you went to can you tell us a little bit about this? Because
Yeah, sure.
it's a fork of EOS Voter from Gray Mass, but you went to those guys and told them what we were going to. I also went to them a long time ago, and they said, oh, go ahead and fork it, you know. And I said, well, we want to work with you if possible. It's your tool. We don't think the community is better served by having multiple versions of the same tool. Our goal would be really to have you adopt these things. But then you went to them and there was a timing issue, right? They didn't.
Right.
Yeah. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, that was exactly it. I mean, I know that you'd reached out to them before. I'd also created an issue request on their portal asking for support of the Telos chain, and it was a timing issue. They have a pretty solid roadmap
Hmm.
for the Gray Mass tool, and they were just all hands on deck developing that. They were totally in support of adding additional support for multi chains. However, I wasn't confident that it would be in line with the timing that we had for our first essential go no go vote.
Yeah. So
Telos.
yeah, and also it became later became clear that we had to add more features, which we'll talk about. But yeah, so that's the same thing I got from them. It was like, yeah, we support it, but we got our own plan, and just because in the nicest way, just because you guys want to start a new chain, we can't really, we got our plan. We're not going to get pulled off our plan, and which is just how anyone would be, right?
Right.
So if I understand, the plan is that, and they had already accepted some of your pull requests, right?
Right.
One of the big things around this that is still developing is how Block One will ultimately decide to change keys. There's just been a new release yesterday of 1.3.0, and that we're looking at how, if there's any key changes. But basically, Block One is proposing a big change overall to keys. So for a while we were looking at changing like just the prefix from EOS to Telos and whatnot. I imagine Warbly would have used WBI, right, and then 5 or then the number. So that happened, right? And that is ongoing because we're waiting for Block One to fully lock down what they're suggesting is going to be the ongoing version of keys. So we may have to scramble a bit, but nothing handled multi-chain, right? So you're planning to make these additions and then offer them back to EOS to EOS voter, so that Gray Mass can adopt them if they choose to, so that even their users can just get these new features on future releases of their tools.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And as a matter of fact, we've already submitted PR, a pull request, and had a dialogue with the Gray Mass team, who were very grateful with the work that we were doing, and mentioned that they will be utilizing that as the sort of guide as to what aspects of EOS Voter needs to be changed in order to support multi-chain. So, it feels great to give back to the community, and
Yeah.
the entire telos of EOSIO, right?
It is, right? Exactly. That's exactly true. That is the telos of EOSIO, to build a big group of multiple chains that interact in a positive way with each other and double their ability to expand their ability to do development. So, and that's a great capsule example of it, right? So they had a tool, a lot of people like it. We wanted to add some features. They were adding other features. So you forked it with or without their permission, it doesn't really matter, but you forked it with their good graces and said, we'll just go and do this because we need these tools now, and we understand they're not on your immediate roadmap, and rather than waiting, we'll just do it, right? That's how free and open source software works, in the best possible way. We have a lot of examples of the worst way, where people just take stuff and add no value. But here's how we roll on Telos, right? You're adding that value, you're presenting it back to them, so we get the features we need when we need them, and then we also, if they find them useful, which I'd be shocked they wouldn't, because I know that for them, multi-chain has to be on their roadmap, right? It'd be on anyone's
Right.
roadmap. You cracked the code for them. Did all the work. All they have to do is, so they have much less work just to do to incorporate it. So what that means is then now all the users so they can incorporate that to the extent and level they think is right. And now all the users of Gray Mass EOS Voter are going to, will in the next update, are likely, you know, in some update, are going to get these this multi-chain possibility, which is exactly what we're hoping for, right? They come out ahead because now they're all ready for Telos and hopefully Warbly and EOS, of course. And then there's a new one that, you know, and there's some others that are coming. There's NLOS. NLEO, it's no limit coin is going to
I saw that
launch one. And I mean, there's no stop to this, right? It's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. We're at the it's like that first, you know, nanosecond after the Big Bang, right? And
right.
We know where it goes from here. So you give it back. Now they have features that they weren't expecting to have for a few months. All the users on their wallet have those features too, and it's a big plus for us because Squirrel is great, you know, and I love it, and I know it's safe. But people, you know, people know EOS Vetter better. People shouldn't have to change their tools. You know, like the tools should change to convenience the people. They shouldn't have to change the tools.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But now there's some other things that are coming out that we are going to be ahead on. And that's because just the speed of development, right? So Telos is coming out with all kinds of a whole lot of voting that doesn't happen on EOS, right? We vote for block producers much the same way, although behind the scenes, the inverse weighted voting is used so that people voting for just one or two block producers don't get the same weight as someone who's voting for the full 25, 30, whatever. Obviously, Dan has said publicly many times that if you're not voting for the larger amount, you're not really kind of doing your duty, and voting for anything less than for 15 or less is actually leads, you know, increases the risk for Byzantine faults. So, so we all should be voting for more. We just build that in, right? That's all behind the scenes in Telos and in Squirrel. It'll look exactly the same as EOS Voter, I think. But we're going to add these new kinds of voting, right? Because right off the bat, people on Telos are going to be able to do a ratify amend contract where you basically, you know, from block one of somebody could kick out a ratification effort on the existing governance documents, and I expect probably that'll happen. And then also, people will need to vote on that. People will need to vote on arbitrators, because we're also going to elect arbitrators, just like BPs. And since we built this other form of voting, it just makes sense to put everything under that. People can vote for worker proposal systems. All these things will be available from launch, because we won't launch until they're available. Yeah. So but they'll have them. So worker proposal things can go. There's going to be, for the Telos Foundation voters, I believe that'll be an example of a smaller group that can, like a subgroup that can use this voting system as well, right? So something we can set up is people can set up their own sub voting groups and use the voting tool, the non-BP voting tools that are built into Squirrel or anybody else who adopts these, right? So it's very exciting.
No, absolutely. And of course the basic features are there. So, you know, sending, receiving core tokens, or, you know, airdrop tokens, buying and selling RAM, staking, CPU net, generating keys, that sort of stuff, or even interacting with smart contracts. Those are sort of like the core features. But some of the Telos specific features, as you mentioned, is you know, the ability to vote for arbitrators, and you know, participate in the ratify amend processes and worker proposals through this tool. And one of the things that we're experimenting with is the ability to create free accounts directly in Squirrel.
Right. Yeah,
you know,
you've done that.
That's been a huge thing, right? A huge
Yeah.
issue in the space.
Right. So we have, so yeah, and I love that because it wasn't even on my radar that you were doing that. And I mean, like right when you were doing it, I thought that was like a longer term thing. And then it's like, oh, it's done. I was like, whoa. It's like 3 a.m. and I was just going to go to bed and hey, it's done. You know,
Yeah,
I
and
know.
it's 6 a.m. we're on the East Coast, so we're 3
Yeah,
hours ahead.
So yeah, we're on the West Coast. So yeah, I was like, oh my God. So then obviously I didn't go to sleep for a couple more hours after that. Because it's so what happens is that you fund on there's a certain account called Free Squirrel SQRL account ACCT that you created that can hold funds so that if we want to and that's how basically you get around the resource problem. Brilliant solution. And so you put some of that into you loaded that up. But since it was cross chain, that meant that we could grab the same one on EOS, and I didn't want somebody else to grab it. So I just wanted to make sure that like it didn't, so we created that on EOS too, and I think 2 or 3 people got some free EOS accounts courtzy of me, which I'm happy they have. But because we went and tested it out, and needed a little bit of EOS. But this is so great because what that means is when you sign up for Squirrel, right, you can go and you can get those free accounts, which Telos has promised. We're going to have at least underlined the first 1 million new accounts will be free. I think because we all think that paying even a penny for an account is, it's not about value as much as it's about just the friction that causes, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, you went and set it up. People are gonna and this is very much in line. It's going to be funded at least initially by the Telos Foundation, probably forever by the Telos Foundation. That's what it exists for. These are like onboarding projects like this are exactly within the Telos Foundation's mandate to promote the use and knowledge of the Telos network. So this is great. This is also a great example to other wallets because we had some discussions about this. Like, should that only go through a Telos Foundation portal for new wallet creations, or should we work with wallets? And we decided that we can really extend our reach into other communities and other areas better if we allow wallets to do it. And it's worth it for them because they can onboard a whole bunch of new users, right? So, and that, usually often when you start with one wallet, most people sort of stick with that for a long time. They don't test stuff out. So, which is just nature. So we want to give all these other wallets the chance. It doesn't, we don't, as long as they are using the money, that we set aside for this well, and avoiding abuse and avoiding like Sybil type things. And most people are just creating 1 or 2 accounts, then that's totally fine. And so this is a great example that you set up, not only of how to do it in Squirrel, but set an example for how everybody else can do it too. Like we can just, they can each fund. I mean, they can look at your code and do this and just drop it into theirs, and we can fund their accounts on an ongoing basis, keep them topped up as long as they keep providing us, just some aggregate amounts, or tell us what their procedures are for making sure that we're not just so someone's not just creating spam accounts.
Right. Absolutely.
So you blazed the trail, sir. Again,
hey, we're just trying to support the community and help have a chain that isn't $250,000 to run a DApp,
right,
amongst other things.
Right.
And one of the additional features that's going to be in Squirrel as well is the TIP5 token standard interface.
Yeah.
So
careful what you say here. So
do you want to share some of that with the listeners?
So yeah, I want to be careful because so the TIP5 token interface is an interface that is a standard that's meant to match what Yeah, it's meant to match what the ERC20 power pick said. We love secrets, so we do too. I don't type much here because I have an old keyboard. It make you hear it click, 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 and then everybody will understand how slow I type, which is not good. So that's what I'm embarrassed about. So so the tip 5 is meant to start it out, meaning to give the EOS world a standard token that's much more like an ERC20 token that everybody's used to. The standard token on EOS, the EOSIO token, was missing a ton, like not a ton. It was missing probably like 5 things that were, that were necessary to have some of those features. Now, what's really interesting is they just adopted 2 of the features that we have. In the Tuesday 1.3.0, we noticed that 2 of the things around creating and deleting lines, what we call create wallet and delete wallet, they call open and close. And so they've adopted those, and obviously they we all just were looking at the same thing and saying, hey, this is something that needs to happen. Tiny point of pride in getting there, a few days earlier, but it's everyone was going to get there. So anyway, right. There's some other things though that they don't have, like allotting. Like we can allot a token, so I can send a token to somebody who hasn't created to store a token. You need to, on tip 5, you need to like create a line of RAM, which takes like 18 to 25 bytes, not kilobytes, bytes per token. But that you just need to create basically a line entry on a table somewhere. With the old EOSIO token, so we did create wallet, because you can't do, because the old problem was you could, with the standard token, you could there was some RAM that was lost, because if I sent you a token, I would have to give some RAM to it. But when you were done, if you were ever done using that token, you wouldn't be able to reclaim my RAM, right? So It would just these very tiny amounts of RAM would just get lost, which is a loss of a system resource. It costs something for me to do an airdrop, but it also like is just, if you don't want it, it's just useless. And in aggregate, that means something. So Craig Brascom, who works with me at GoodBlock, one of our core developers, he led the charge on creating this tip 5, but he created like something called a lot. So you can send some of a token to someone who hasn't created a wallet there, and it'll just wait there. And then once they create wallet, they can go in and claim that. So those are things that I encourage the EOS developers to adopt next from the tip 5. At any rate, these things exist, but right now we interact with them as a smart contract. And so we've been talking about ways that maybe you could come in and add those as a core functionality, so people could look at all these tip 5 tokens out there as, just like any other EOSIO token.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the reason I mention it, is because Craig and I have been having some discussions about it, and it is something that we're working on.
Yeah, that's exciting. So the thing I wanted to be careful of is, I'll say this much: if I spill the secrets, at least I don't get to be mad at anyone but myself. So there are some really cool new features coming out around tip 5s, and you know what those are, and so you're trying to get ahead of the public deployment of those, and so you're looking also at having Squirrel support some stuff we haven't quite disclosed yet, because we have to make sure it works exactly as we plan. So that's your kind of secret agent stuff that you're doing now, right?
That's exactly it.
It won't be long, folks. Believe me, the tone of my voice will tell you I can't wait till we can talk about these things. We actually do have a tip 5 token out in the wild, on a couple of them out on the EOS chain that we deployed, mainly to sort of get people a couple things. One is called the DPoS token, and that's at the contract DPoS token IBC. And the idea is this is a sort of a starter coin that we can get people. We have some really good ideas at Telos and at GoodBlock about how to advance a form of IBC that allows value and information to transfer on and off the chain. It's we're actually, as part of this, I'm developing a scale. And actually, Stan Larimer, I proposed some of my ideas, and Stan Larimer and Thomas Cox and a couple others thought they were good. And so at their suggestion, I'm writing up as a sort of a 1 to 5 scale for what IBC is, right? Because we all talk about IBC, which is inter-blockchain communications, and but we all have something, you know, we're all like feeling a different part of the elephant there when we talk about it. So I'm creating a scale that'll be published very, very soon with a lot of help from those people and some other smart folks like Ryan Fox and some others in the IBC channel on and Fuzzy, who I know is here. And so then we'll be able to say, hey, this is level 2 IBC across such and such chains done by, you know, X method, done by Merkle trees in the header or whatever, Merkle proofs in the header. So, so on that scale, it's probably going to be, what we're going to come up with is probably around a scale 2.5 to scale 3. I don't know, scale 3, give or take, of IBC, knowing that, you know, what we currently have is scale 1, is level 1. And what we're hope for someday is full multi-chain, complete verbose communication would be level 5. So we're somewhere in the middle, but it's going to allow transfer on and off EOSIO chains and other chains. So that's called DPoS token, and we're just passing some around for now. And if you can actually ask, and there's a Telegram channel for it. I think it's called at DPoS token. That's it. DPoS TOKEN, and you can get free ones on. Right now, it's deployed on EOS and on Tron, and of course, it's going to be deployed on Telos. So those are there, so people can actually test out the create wallet, getting allotments, claiming allotments, things like that for a live TIP5 token out there. So if people want to try that out and look at that and look at the interface on Squirrel, they can do that. But that's right now, that's under the smart contracts part, under tools, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I've got to get some of those.
Yeah, get them. They're worth nothing. They will never be worth anything. But somebody reminded me that that's exactly what they said about Doge, and now it's like the most used cryptocurrency for small purchases. So, but the cool thing about the DPoS, the vision for the DPoS token, or any, and by the way, this will be laid out using the TIP5 interface, right? And using some of these new tools that things that we're enabling with TIP5s. So once we get this working, any TIP5 token that wants to use these features and is within the standard, or within perhaps another standard that's like a superset of those standards, we'll be able to do it. So we're not just talking about one coin. We're talking about any new coin being able to move seamlessly and being recorded on EOS or Telos or Tron or VeChain or Warbly or whatever. So that's we're trying to take a small step there once we get Telos off the ground. So Telos gives us a place to start from, right? Somebody has to some chain has to set out those hooks for everybody else to sort of initially hook to, and then it just becomes a mesh.
Oh yeah, I mean we're leading the front in so many different ways. It's really exciting.
Yeah, we're lucky. We're in a lucky position, right? We're very fortunate. We got to see some of the things you would do on a 2.0 version launch of EOS, like keeping all the tools. So we get that advantage. So we should advance the cause because we have a head start. So well, this is great. So I think we should keep this to an hour. So we got 5 minutes. Anybody? There's some questions. I think at least one question. Are the notification? Oh, no, that's just about to. Somebody had a question about what have been some of the challenges? So PowerPix wanted to know what have been some of the challenges with Squirrel.
Yeah, so unlike Scatter, and again, just looking under the hood of Scatter, I can say this with confidence. Unlike Scatter, which has built-in or support for multi-chain, or at least the structure for that,
Yeah,
EOS Voter did not. EOS Voter did not. So we actually created a TELOS version only for the main chain. And if you recall, Douglas, I had a chat with you about it, and your response was, "Hey, we should support all chains, right?"
Yeah.
And I said, "You know what? That's a great idea." So that's essentially what the biggest challenge was initially, was the fact that EOS Voter did not support any multi-chain, or didn't have any concept for it whatsoever. I mean, everything from the Constitution uh, through to labels in the application. In Squirrel, depending on the chain that you select, you're presented with either the TELOS network operating agreement or the EOS Constitution. So it's that intelligent, right?
That's great.
So that's really what the biggest challenge was with developing Squirrel.
Yeah, and to their credit, we were talking a little while ago that when this was developed, it was in a context of, holy crap, there's no tools for voting. We have to give people
Right.
something. So they are to be, so they were heroes in getting something out there that people could use and trust. So it's totally reasonable that they put it out the fastest way to do it, and then intended
Absolutely.
to add this later. Yeah, but that was pretty huge, and you saved them a ton. I would think that somebody's buying somebody a beer next at the next hackathon, because you save them a lot of work, and also they do a lot for us. So I'll probably buy you both beers in TELOS. So that question was actually from Megan on YouTube. PowerPix reminded me. We have another question. Will the DPoS tokens work with older graphene chains? I hope so. That's my belief. I think there's a good chance that they will. We haven't tested that out yet, but that is our intention. If it's possible, we will do it. If it works on Ethereum, we'll do that too. Because hey, anything we can do to get value off the Ethereum network faster and onto the EOSIO world, I support.
Oh yeah.
The great diaspora of the move to EOSIO. Okay, I think that's so. Look at this. We're at an hour. I think we've covered a lot, and we're out of questions. So Marlon Williams from EOS Miami and Dimitri C from Infinity Block. I want to thank both of you for taking part and for all the development you're doing on these exciting tools. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Douglas. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys. We're gonna have another one next week. We're gonna have more exciting guests for you. We're gonna keep it to an hour. All good things. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.